Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to explore the story of Harka Raj Rai.
Also known as Harka Sampang.
Exactly, the current independent mayor of Dharan in Nepal.
Mm-hmm.
Our main source, well, it's his Wikipedia page, gives us a pretty solid overview of his background, his career, all that.
And it's quite a story, isn't it?
It really is. Our mission here basically is to figure out how someone like him, rooted in social activism, not part of the big parties.
An outsider.
Right. An outsider managed to get elected mayor of a pretty significant city and also look into the complexities he's run into since then.
Yeah, the bumps in the road.
It should give us some insight, hopefully, into grassroots movements, maybe the hurdles independent politicians face.
It's just fascinating, this whole idea, like you said, of someone coming from outside the usual political machine.
Yeah.
And then getting in and, trying to lead from within it. That tension between the outsider and the establishment.
Mm.
His story seems like a perfect example playing out right now.
Okay, so let's start from the start. Harka Raj Rai, born 1983, Kartamcha, Kothang.
Mm-hmm.
And here's an interesting detail, maybe give some context. His father was a former British Gurkha soldier.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting background. Service, discipline, perhaps?
You have to wonder, how that might have, shaped him. Then, 1998, he moves. Big move to Dharan for higher education. That's after his SLC exams, like high school finals, basically.
Yeah, and that move to Dharan, it feels like a real turning point in the narrative, doesn't it?
Seems like it.
It's not just about studying. It's where he, seems to have put down roots, got involved. He did a Bachelor of Arts, English and Political Science, right there at Mahendra Multiple Campus in Dharan.
Yeah, so the education fits the later career path.
Absolutely. And then he worked as a tutor after graduating. That suggests, an early connection with the people there, engaging with the community. Probably helped him later on.
No doubt. And this is where it gets really interesting for me. After his degree, he didn't stick around immediately. He spent 6 years working abroad.
Where was that again?
Iraq and Afghanistan.
Wow. Okay. 6 years in those environments?
Yeah. You got to imagine the kind of perspective you'd gain from that. Totally different places. Challenging, obviously.
Definitely.
Makes you wonder how those years influenced his thinking on, governance, the issues he'd later focus on back in Nepal.
Well, that kind of international experience, it can be incredibly formative, can it? Seeing different political systems, maybe instability, conflict. It often fuels this strong desire to make a difference back home. Gives you a wider lens for local problems.
Right. So, okay, fast forward. His political career. First attempt, 2019 by-elections in Dharan, ran as an independent.
How did that go?
Not great. Only got 422 votes.
Ooh, no.
So it just shows, breaking in, especially as an independent, it can be a real uphill battle. Persistence pays off, maybe?
Seems so, because what happened next?
Because then, 2022 elections. Ran again, still independent. And this time, wow, huge win. 20,821 votes.
20,000 from 422.
Yep, nearly 40% of the total vote.
That's a massive shift. Incredible.
And his symbol, kind of memorable detail, was a walking stick.
So, walking stick. Okay. Simple, memorable, stands out.
And he beat the Nepali Congress candidate, Kishore Rai, who got a decent number himself, like 16,000 votes.
Over 16,000, yeah. So beating an established party candidate like that as an independent, it really underlines how significant that victory was.
So what fueled that massive change, that huge swing?
Good question.
Well, his activism seems absolutely key here. After coming back from working overseas, he didn't just, settle down quietly.
Yeah, what did he do?
He founded something called the National Unity Network. And its specific goal, protesting corruption.
Okay, so right away, tackling a major issue. Sets a clear agenda.
Exactly. It tells you his motivation. And he was active in protests about stuff that really mattered to people in Dharan, like tax hikes, illegal sand mining from the rivers.
The environmental angle, too.
Yeah.
Sand mining can be a huge problem.
Big problem, yeah. And also the constant issue of water scarcity in the city. He was right in the middle of those fights.
See, those are bread and butter local issues. Getting involved directly like that, it builds trust, doesn't it? Shows you're genuinely committed to their daily struggles, not just talking politics.
Seems like it worked.
And wasn't there something about a highway, too?
Yeah, back in 2016, he became coordinator for people displaced by the Madan Bandari Inner Terai Highway expansion.
Right, so dealing with development impacts, displacement, that's significant community engagement.
And he also built Shram Sanskriti Park to showcase Dharan's history.
Oh, that's interesting. So it wasn't just about the problems. It was also about sort of local pride, culture, heritage. building something positive.
Yeah, a broader vision, maybe?
It paints a picture of someone deeply invested in the place, not just campaigning on negativity.
Okay, so let's dig into that 2022 election result a bit more. The numbers. We said Harka Raj Rai, independent, got 20,821 votes. That's the 39.8%.
Almost 40%, yeah.
Kishore Rai, Nepali Congress, second place, 16,051 votes, around 30.7%.
Still a strong showing for Congress, but not enough.
And then Manju Bandari Subedi from CPN, UML, she got 12,825 votes, about 24.5%. There were others too, RPP, smaller groups.
Right. So looking at those numbers, what really jumps out?
Well, the independent win itself is huge.
Absolutely huge. In a system with established parties, for an independent to take nearly 40%, that's extraordinary. It screams disillusionment with the main parties, doesn't it?
Seems like it. Among Duran voters, anyway.
And that swing you mentioned earlier, around 29% away from Congress towards the independent.
Yeah.
That's just a massive signal from the electorate. They wanted something else.
Yeah. The total votes cast, over 52,000, but also quite a few rejected ballots, over 10,000.
That's a high number of rejected votes. Wonder what was behind that. But turnout itself, around 63%, seems pretty decent. People were engaged.
So, yeah, a clear mandate for change, it seems. But the story doesn't just end with a triumphant election, does it?
Really does. Governing is the hard part.
Right. And the Wikipedia page, it does detail some, well, controversies he's been caught up in. More recently, 2023 to 2025. This is where you see the challenges of actually being in charge.
Especially coming from that activist background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, he was accused of inciting an assault on a community representative during some dispute in Dharan.
Ooh, okay. That's a serious allegation.
Very serious. And it raises questions, about leadership style. How do you handle conflict when you're the one in power, not protesting?
Yeah, that's a critical transition.
Yeah.
The skills needed for mobilizing people against something aren't always the same skills you need for, diplomacy and running things day to day. An accusation like that, inciting violence, that's a huge test for any leader. Definitely affects public perception.
Then there were defamation complaints. He filed them against 2 journalists.
Ah, the media relationship. Often tricky.
Yeah. They allegedly portrayed him as an extortionist, so he sued.
Okay. That's a tough one. It brings up that whole tension, right? Freedom of the press versus protecting your reputation, especially as a public figure.
Delicate balance.
It really is. Filing defamation suits, well, it can look like trying to control the story, maybe even silence critics. Raises flags about press freedom. It's a challenge lots of leaders face. How to handle scrutiny.
He was also investigated for apparently ordering tree cutting without authorization in Dharan 20.
Environmental regulations, procedures. Got to follow the rules, even if you're the mayor trying to get things done.
Yeah. And another procedural thing, a report said he bypassed the deputy mayor when appointing an acting mayor, which was apparently against the legal protocol.
Okay, see, things like that. The tree cutting, bypassing the deputy, they point to potential issues with, governance. Respect to the established rules, the legal framework, the hierarchy.
It matters how things are done, not just what gets done.
Exactly. Ignoring protocol like that, it can look like, I don't know, maybe a disregard for the rules, raises questions about the administrative approach, rule of law stuff.
And then sort of reinforcing that, there was an investigative report highlighting his confrontational behavior towards journalists.
So the friction with the media wasn't just the lawsuits. It was maybe a broader pattern.
Seems possible. It adds to that picture of a maybe combative style. But, and this is important too, the source notes he did issue a public apology after criticism came out.
Ah, okay. The apology is significant.
Why do you say that?
Well, it suggests maybe some accountability, or at least a recognition that he needed to address the public's concerns about how he was acting. It could be seen as, acknowledging a mistake, maybe part of a learning curve in office.
Right. Adapting to the pressures and the spotlight.
Especially for someone who campaigned on being different. Maintaining trust is crucial, so acknowledging criticism can be part of that.
So when you put it all together, based on the source, it's quite a narrative, isn't it?
It really is.
You've got this former overseas worker, passionate activist, taps into local frustration, wins this massive independent victory.
A real grassroots success story in many ways.
But then his time as mayor, it's also marked by these pretty significant challenges, these controversies, raises questions about, his leadership style, sticking to the rules.
Exactly. His story is a powerful illustration of how, yes, independent candidates and movements can shake things up, disrupt the old ways, especially if they connect with what people really care about.
Yeah.
But It also puts a bright spotlight on the